So for this next episode of the SYNTHO podcast, I'm joined by Rossi. He's had an amazing 18 months, released on some huge labels, and went on to have a really busy 2019 with touring dates. We speak all things music, how he's got there, and he also just shares some really good insights to upcoming producers, and as always, some humour as well.
Like the first one, I found it quite opening, and I was very tired, from the first kind of year of touring that I'd had, and I'd never experienced that before. And then I'd come off of that, and I went into the first lockdown, and I kind of needed that rest. But then towards the end of that lockdown, I got really fidgety and weird. And then the second lockdown was just like a random little couple of weeks one. So now I feel ready and primed to do it. And when I knew it was kind of coming, I started scheduling my weeks, so this board here, it sits in my studio. It's just my weekly schedule of exactly by the minute what I'm doing, so that I don't have time to get bored. I don't have time to think, oh, am I doing enough? And I don't have time to sit and when I am chilling in the evenings, I know I've done my work in the day properly. And that's been so good for my mental, because when I wasn't doing that, I was kind of making music, but just whenever I kind of wanted to, whenever I was happy to, which after a while, it just gets boring because you're just stuck in the same repetition with no inspiration. So now this kind of third lockdown has been my prime of it, because I've actually really started to enjoy it and enjoy myself again, which has been really nice. How you find?
For me, it's the music making's not been relentless. I think the first lockdown I felt like everyone was making loads, and I remember everyone going this is gonna be a time when everyone's gonna have made loads of music. I was kind of shit,
the pressure was on.
Almost unless I come out of this with 1,000 tracks. And when I started to realize that we've got a lot of time here, I've just kind of gone back to enjoying it and making music when I want. I'm actually making good stuff, but I think the first one was actually kind of exciting, wasn't it? It was what's happening next? And then
exactly, and there was oh my god, this is very new, this has never been experienced before in the world. What are we getting? Is it I felt like it was World War Z, and no one actually fucking, and it did feel kind of the end of the world, no one was out, no one was doing anything. Whereas now it's just fucking hell, what's going on? It's are we ever going to be out of it?
But I think you said then, now it's more just a routine. I'm making music kind of when I feel like it, but I'm used to now just coming in there, making a few beats and that.
Yeah, exactly. For me, I was doing that, but I think my brain, I was putting, how you said, oh, this is a time where everyone's going to make albums. Everyone's going to make loads of music.
I thought that.
Yeah, exactly. And I had that notion as well, but I think when I spent the first lockdown, it was really funny. I actually got ill in the first lockdown. And when the lockdown happened, I was staying at my mate John's house when I got ill. So then I had to stay at my mate John's house because I was ill and I couldn't go home. And I was okay. So then I spent most of the lockdown with John because he just lived on his own. And he's an artist, but he's always wanted all the time in the world just to paint. So he was this is my perfect time. And it didn't do him any good, because having all the time in the world to do something, your brain rattles you. It gives you so much anxiety. You overthink things. You start thinking what everyone else is doing in this time, and they make a better beats. Do you know what I mean? You start doing all of that stuff. Whereas when I think that's why I started the sort of scheduling, because then it keeps me in the morning waking up and thinking, okay, I need to be in the studio by 9 doing that. Do you know what I mean? So my brain's in check.
I think ultimately having a routine, especially now with all the time in the world, is the. I think it's funny because people always ask me about going full time with music. And I go, you don't realize too much time is the devil of productivity.
100%.
You just say, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it this afternoon. And I remember I took the plunge pretty early and was just finding different ways to get by. But I found myself always, there was a huge void every week. I could make music all week. Whereas rewind a year, I wrote tracks that Frustrated, Explore, when I had no time, because I was just making sure the time I had.
Bro, it was the exact same as me, because when I would written I don't know, Paradise and songs like that, I was working. Also, I was trying to be, I wanted to be an actor when I was younger. So I went to drama school, everything. And my dream was to always be an actor, and DJing was a side thing. And then, so in my time between auditions and working, I used to work in a call center. I worked at Snog, the frozen yogurt shop. I worked for Deliveroo for a bit. In between all of that, I was making music just because it made me feel good and I loved it. that's when I made like Your Tracks Up Paradise, more like all the tracks that people like the most.
Yeah.
And because it was like enjoyment. And that's like, I think sometimes when you're given all the time in the world and then you do take on music full time, it starts to become your life. And so naturally you find ways of getting anxious about it, or you find ways of like not enjoying it as much. Whereas now, especially these first like kind of 3 weeks of the year, I've started making music and actually just like making it and just loving it.
Yeah.
And for a while at the end of last year, I wasn't, because I just had no inspiration.
Yeah.
Whereas now I feel in a much better mindset, which is nice, man. It's nice just to make a track and not care who you think's going to play it, who's going to like it. Just you like it for your sake. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I think that's an amazing thing to think. It's almost the ego fighting with yourself. Like, oh, is anyone going to like this track? Going to do this?
Exactly.
But just make it for yourself. And I think in the end, everything else looks after itself.
Yeah, man. Because I think, say if like once you start making tracks and people start liking it, that's a great feeling. But I think as a person, you need to manage that feeling. And be able to say, look, that's not what I live off. I don't just live off that satisfaction. I lived off the satisfaction of making a track that I loved.
Yeah.
And I think it's as you grow as a DJ, you go on a path of learning that, and everyone has to go on it. You can't just get told it and know it. I think I've definitely gone on that path this year, which has been, that's why I think I've really liked 2020 in a weird way, because I've learned so much about myself and I've really like mentally become a DJ. Whereas before I was still in the middle ground of like, oh, I was an actor, now I'm this guy, and now I'm a DJ. Am I? Do you know what I mean? So
I bet the time of reflection after a crazy year, because I would say 2019, it really did blow up for you, didn't it?
Yeah, man, it was mad. It was really, it was. What were you gonna say? Sorry.
I was saying that the reflection must have been like a good time to take it all in, because I reckon for some artists it can just go like that, and then you don't even think, oh shit, that was good, because you just before you know it, it's like 5 years down the line and you never even got to actually
100%. It was like it was a great sense of reflection, but then it was also like okay, I'm here now.
I was so close as well.
Yeah, exactly. And
I felt the same.
Because it was like the summer of 2020 was meant to be like, I had a lot of bookings for Ibiza, things like that. Do you know what I mean? I think both of us probably. And it's like that kind of all my work of like 6-7 years of making music and all this stuff that I didn't know I was going to end up doing was coming to this 1 year, and then it just taken away.
It's so funny, because I wrote an email at the end of last year to my mailing list, and it was the exact same words, that I almost felt like everything had been taken away from me. That all this work for like 6-7 years, then like it's like that, and it's like gone.
Exactly. But after a year of it and think about it, I'm like, no, it's not that. It was like 2019 was the perfect year in terms of like what had happened in my life and like how things started to go, people liking my music, and it allowed me to understand it all, which is great, that time of reflection, and then think about, okay, what's next, and actually evaluate all of that, which is like you say, not a lot of people get that time. Usually suddenly you'd be touring and then you're just going and you never get that time. So I'm so grateful to have had this time to kind of reflect and think about it, and just kind of be a little bit proud of yourself, because I think but like my latest track, I've called it Amor Sa, which means like love yourself, because I think at the moment especially, sounds like a kind of arrogant thing, but I don't think enough people show enough love for what they do and like what they achieve. I think it's a human thing, because you're always striving for like the next best thing, or once you reach a goal you think, okay, well, I need to do that now. It's like, actually have love and evaluate what you've done and be proud of where you've got to, because if you ask yourself 5 years where you'd be now, would you believe it?
I know, it's crazy, man. I think never enjoying the moment and always looking ahead is something I really struggle with. Like, goals are set out for all aspects of music, fitness, whatever. As soon as you achieve it, it's like, right, run 15k, right, when's the half marathon? Instead of like,
exactly. 100%.
I think it's so common, and I think mindfulness plays a big factor in that.
100%.
But let's take it back then right to the beginning, because I don't know massive amounts about your story. I just released a lot of tracks and seem to really do well in a short period of time, but every overnight success is usually a 10-year. And you're not an overnight success by any means, but it's definitely a big story behind the...
Where do I start? I guess I'll start. Okay, how early do you want to go? Like the first
Where
time I thought about DJing,
when
or
did you touch? When did electronic music intrigue you? And
my
did it ever, or was it?
it was my dad. My dad got me into electronic music. So my dad, he worked in City his whole life, and he spent a lot of my childhood going to Ibiza. And so when I was like 16, he took me to Ibiza for the first time ever. And I went with him and a few of his mates, which is like, people be like, you went Ibiza for your dad. My dad is a different breed of people.
Yeah.
Like, if you ever get to meet my dad, you'd understand. He's mental. He's 60 going on 21. He's mental.
Yeah.
And so he took me to Ibiza, and he was very much into like Head Candy and El Tofino, like all that kind of soul sort of music. So like growing up in the car, he would always play like that kind of house music, but that kind of deep, what I would actually call deep tech,
house, yeah.
or deep house, deep tech
Yeah.
sort of sound. And the first time I remember, we went to Music On. It was the first time I'd ever heard of Marco Carola. I had no idea who the geezer was. I think it was its second year.
Yeah.
I had an amazing night, but I just remember falling in love with like my dad. He always explained it as like a clock in a club, like a clock going all night of house music. And I never understood it until I went to Ibiza. And then after coming back from Ibiza, it was like this explosion of like wanting to find out all these tracks and what they were and things like that. And my first experience of seeing someone like, or getting myself a pair of decks, I was sat on a train coming back from an audition, and there was a geezer next to me who had virtual DJ on his laptop. Do you remember the free thing?
Yeah,
it was like all red.
Yeah.
And I asked him about it. It looked wicked, and he was like, "Oh yeah, it's a free thing online. You can download it." Went home, downloaded it, and I was just like mixing just for fun. I was mixing like Dizzy Rascal and Madonna, because it was just so cool. And then after just doing that in my bedroom for ages, I went to boarding school, and for acting, but a lot of people started to have like parties and stuff. And my cousin was turning 18, and I said, "Can I DJ at your party? Can I just try it out?" And he laughed at me, and I was like, me and my friends, we got shittiest pair like speakers together, and I DJ'd his 18th. And then from there, like people started like dancing. It was great, and I got a buzz off of it. So then I started just doing loads of my friends' birthday parties off of my laptop, just like not having a clue what I was doing. And from that, it was like more parties I did, the more people were saying, "Oh, I'll pay you to come and do my birthday," or "Can you do such and such a birthday?" So I became like the guy around my area of, like, I guess any early DJ who was just doing everyone's birthday parties and weddings, 50th, 60th. And I started to realize that I could make money out of it, so that by the time I'd come out of like drama school, I'd bought myself a pair of decks. I'd got it all sorted. And then that was my side hobby. I just liked DJing. And it was only till, this is a pretty interesting story, my 18th, Christian AB DJ'd my 18th party.
Yeah.
So he was a friend of my dad's friend, Elliot.
Yeah.
And at the time, I didn't really know who Christian was.
Yeah.
And he was an upcoming DJ who was just doing pretty well in the scene and knew my friend, my dad's friend, Elliot. So he come and DJ my 18th. And he was sick, but I asked him if he could play like Ibiza, like house. At that time, I was going, "Can you play Ibiza like house music?"
Yeah.
And he was like, "Yeah." He was playing all these sick beats. Then he let me play with him for a while. It's funny because at the time I had no idea he was just Christian, and now I look, I'm like, "Fucking hell, he's like the guy." And he said to me, he was like, "If you want to be a DJ," he was like, he was like, "Start producing now." He was like, "Download Ableton and just get producing." And I had no idea what it was. And then in that time, I was like, okay, downloaded Ableton, and I thought I want to try and start getting some sets. So instead of just doing just weddings for the rest of my life, I wanted to try and start playing in clubs. So I started just following all of my sister's old like mates to go to clubs and go party with them who I knew were DJs. So like a friend of mine, Connor and Harrison, they were called, what were they called? Two of a Kind, they were called. And I used to just go to their sets with them and try like mingle with people while I was out. And I met a guy called Jesse James who ran a party called Connected, which did like big parties at Cable in London and stuff like that. And he was doing a new summer residency at Cargo. I sent him a mix and he was like, "Yeah, cool, you come do it." By this point, I still hadn't made a beat yet. I just started production on the side. And then from there, I just started selling tickets for Jesse, like, and being a DJ, doing the warm-up sets, and like all my sets were for this brand Connected. But then throughout that, I started playing across London. The whole summer it was like amazing, and different parties were wanting to book me because I was selling tickets, which at the time I was just, you're happy to do because I just wanted to DJ. I would have paid someone to DJ at that time. Do you know what I mean? Because it was just a hobby that I was just loving. And then all in the side of that, people ask me like, oh, did you learn production? But I literally, all I did was sit in my room and figure it out. Like it's I watched your videos and whatnot, but I think it was just like, I was just sitting there, just figuring out how to make a track like that you would hear at Saturday Night on Fabric. That was like my inspiration. Like, and then it all started, I don't know, then it's all a bit of a blur because I started DJing a lot for loads of different parties, and traveling a lot, and DJing on the side of my acting started to become this thing that people actually started to know me as a DJ around London. And from there, it was like, you fast forward a little bit, I was like on the cusp of like, all right, I was making all right beats that I thought was good for myself, because what I do is just make the tracks and send them around to people that I know make good music, and hopefully they would reply. And whenever they did, they'd give me honest feedback. And so I would try to build upon that. And then when my life fully changed was when I met my manager, Hamza. So I met my manager, Hamza, around a pool in Ibiza in like, I don't know, 2016. This is when I was like trying to be like a DJ. And I just knew him as Chef Hamza from Instagram. He was like this cool guy. And we hit it off straight away. And from there, we just like built a great friendship. And then like 2 years later, I'd had my first release, which then got played by Jamie Jones. But before then, Hamza just took me aside, took me out for dinner. Now Hamza, he never really has been a manager before. He was tour manager of Second City, and just works in like tech and stuff. He took me out for lunch and was like, I think I want to like work with you, maybe try be a manager or something, try and make this happen. And at this time I was in like quite a down period of my life. Like I was like not failing as an actor, but not doing what I wanted to do. And I had this like urge to be a DJ, but I just didn't know if I ever could. And I think if I'd never been asked by Hamza to be my manager, I wouldn't have ever believed that I could do it. So then once he took me out, he was just like, look, I don't know how to do this. We'll just work together and we'll just brainstorm ideas. And from that moment, that's when my life like changed, because Hamza's brain made me really understand that I could do this as a career. The first thing he said, so my name's Ross McCormack. Not a name that you probably want to see on a flyer. There's also a footballer called Ross McCormack who plays for Leeds. So every time you Google Ross McCormack, that geezer comes up. So Hamza straight away was like, we need to change your name. So then for months, it was like, okay, we're going to do like the birth of like your new name with all these tracks. Because by that point, I was sitting on tracks that I thought were pretty all right. And then like one of my tracks, like I said, had been played by Jamie Jones at Kappa Future. And that was like the first taste of something good. So I had a release on Modular Records. Do you know Joe Wheeler?
Yeah, I'm familiar with their label. I remember the track getting played actually, but I didn't know at the time it was your track. But obviously looking back, then I was like, to put two and two together. I was like, oh shit, that was I remember the video actually.
That was like a random. It was really funny. So the track got released, I think, in like November time of maybe 2018, or maybe even earlier. I don't know. Maybe at the end of 2017. And then for ages, a lot of people liked it, but I didn't see anything come of it. And then that summer, I got a phone call from Casey Spillman. And at the time, like, to me, Casey Spillman was like, oh, Casey Spillman, mate, like, he's fucking unreal. Do you know what I mean? He was like the big thing that I was like, mate, he's like the UK hotshot.
Yeah.
He called me and he was like, have you seen Jamie Jones' Instagram? I was like, no. And I was like, what? He was like, just go on it. I went flicking through and I thought he was just telling me about a good track. So I was going, oh, I didn't even notice that my track, I flicked past mine. Yeah. I was like, and then I called him back. I was like, yeah, they're sick tracks. He was like, what do you mean? He was like, your track. I was like, mine. Went back on Instagram. Then I suddenly see suddenly see this video. I was like, oh my, and it was like, I guess you would know that first feeling of just seeing your track played out, especially by like one of the people who inspired you most. Like, I remember seeing Jamie Jones years ago at Zoo Project. Like, the fact that he was playing my track, that was like another moment where it was like, oh, I can do this. And that's like a big feeling as a DJ, I think, when someone that big plays your track and that gets a reception of that much. So from then on, it was like, okay, I can do this. I think my music's of a level where maybe people want to play it. So then from there, it was just like the game kind of started changing, and Hamza's brain kind of went into a mode of like, all right, let's see how we can get you some gigs and actually start like marketing you well. So we tried to get loads of names together. One of the names was RMK, but it was too similar to MK. One of the names was Just Mac, which I just thought it sounds like a Big Mac, not good. Yeah. And then my auntie's Italian, and then also some of my family just lengthened my name and called me Rossi. And so it's just like, Rossi, does that work? Is that a bit cheesy? Rossi, I don't know. We were trying it around for ages. We were like, fuck it, we'll go for it, Rossi. And so we did one mix of all my unreleased tunes as Rossi and just put it out as like Meet Rossi on my SoundCloud. And then from there, it was like a snowball, man. It was all just started happening as people probably know it did in terms of releases, and then who started playing my music and stuff like that. And from then it was like just an enjoyment of like, wow, this is really cool. I never ever thought I would be in a position of being paid to make music and play it. And so it was like the slot. It's funny because I just remember like working at fucking Deliveroo and going home and making music, and like that will always stick with me because it was like I was having to get my bike to get on the train to go to Dalston to work a 0-hour contract in Dalston, to come back on my bike when it was freezing cold and getting paid nothing. But all I wanted to do at the end of the day was make music. And it was a big decision for me after like that kind of Jamie Jones thing had happened. And like I went to Australia for a month with my cousin at the January 2019. And it was the best month, like such an amazing month. I first went to Sash. And it was like, okay, you might be a DJ. And I had that in my head. And so on all the buses and like all the travel stuff in Australia, I was just making tracks. Bearing in mind at this time, I had an agent for my acting. I had like I was still wanting to be an actor. And that whole time in Australia, that 1 month of like 2019 was me deciding, actually, I don't think I want to be an actor anymore. Which was really like hard in a way. It sounds like so, but it was like I had it in my brain for my whole life that I was going to be this actor, and I loved it. And whenever anyone asked me, people were like, "Oh, you're going to be a DJ or an actor?" And I was like, "I think I'll do both." And like I can't remember who it was. My mate Pat told me, he was like, "Nah," he was like, "Stop being silly." He was like, "You're going to be a DJ." He was like, "That's it. You need to just decide that and move on with it." And it was after that, like January 2019 in Australia, I come back and had this amazing time. I was like, I think I know what I want to do with my life now. And from like after that, it was just like, cool, game's on. And then it was just, yeah, it's hard to put a lot of it into a kind of, I guess, words, because it's just, I think, like you said, like people might see it as an overnight success, but it's so like really not. And I still like get, I guess, tingles as the fact that I'm here. Even having like I when I first got into the scene, I was listening to your music. Do you know what I mean? I knew what your tracks were. So the fact of like just even still, it sounds mad, but just having a conversation with Josh Baker, it's like, mate, that's mad. If you'd have told me 5 years ago I was doing that, I'd be like, nah, mate, you're mental.
It's an amazing story, mate. And you know what? It's actually very similar to how mine panned out. And what I would say is I think we're genuinely the last generation of DJs that are breaking through now that have actually got there through organically actually just wanting to put music together. Like we started DJing because we wanted to kind of just play one tune into the next tune to people. Like I didn't want to be a DJ. I just wanted to listen to, I was intrigued by electronic music, and I didn't want to have to keep waiting for videos to buffer. So then it was like, how can I just keep the tunes playing without stopping? I know, you've got to get a pair of decks. Saw a pair of decks. Then I started DJing at parties. Sometimes people didn't want me to play house music at parties, but I still did anyway. And then,
Yeah,
like,
exactly, man.
I was persistent with it, and then it was like, shit, if I want to do this, I need to make music. And then,
Mm.
and even with the video, I remember the Apollonia played my track Frustrated, and it was the same thing. Someone said, check that video at DC10. I was like, what? Then it was
Yeah.
on Jay Papa's Instagram story, if you know him.
Yeah, I know, Jay.
It was Dan Ganassia playing Frustrated at DC10. I was like, what is going on? You know, like the day before, you think, like, they're never going to know who I am. Like,
Yeah, exactly, man. It's you just think like what I used to how I thought of it when they're like the moment. I was like, how's Jamie Jones gone like that for his
I
CDJ?
know.
Seen Ross McCormack rocking and thought, yeah, 10,000 people are gonna like
Yeah.
that. Boom, and gone
Yeah.
for it. I was like, you're mental, mate. Like, but
Yeah.
yeah, that's like those are the best feelings, man. And I think that's what you should always. I think so far, I always hold dear is those moments and those kind of feelings, because I think the further you get into it, I guess the more you can forget that. But I think it's always important to remember those like moments as like those are the big wins.
Yeah, my mate said the funniest thing. He's called Alex Fitz. There was a video of Luke Gazelle backed up with Jamie Jones at a villa, and he played Explore. And he was like, that means Jamie Jones had your tune in the headphones because he was mixing out of it. Because Luke actually played it. He was like, you do know what that means? That means Jamie Jones had your tune in his headphones. I was like, yeah,
brilliant.
Mate,
My tune's been in Jamie Jones's headphones.
Yeah, I was like, he's not the one that played it though. He's like,
Mate, it's been in Jamie Jones's headphones. He's listened to it. That's brilliant.
That was a good one. That. So yeah, the next point I was going to say is about defining moments, but I guess that we've just mentioned a massive one, innit?
Yeah, like defining moments is that. I guess more recently, so I went to Sash in 2019 for the first time and partied there on Australia Day. And Australia Day in Australia is unbelievable. It's just like everyone is out to have the best time. And so me and my cousin went to Sash. It was the last couple of days of my trip. I'd done the whole east coast of Australia, and we finished in Sydney. And we went to Sash, and it was unbelievable. And O'Kane played. I'm trying to think who else played. And we was there all day, all night for the day and the night. And my goal was to play there. I was like, I want to play here one day. Like, that's like, I'll set that as a goal. And so my manager, Hamza, at the beginning of 2019, he was just like, let's write out on this thing called Trello, which is like an online goals sort of platform. Write out all your goals, things you want to achieve. Just write it down. He was like, it might not happen, but he was like, if you start writing it down, maybe it'll happen. Sash was definitely one of them. And then a year to the date, on Australia Day 2020, I was booked for Sash, and I played Sash at the Greenwood Hotel, which was like, it was really weird that it was the same date as well. And that moment playing at Sash was like another big goal for me, because it was like something I'd dreamed about, something I talked about, a year of hard work. And then I got to it, and it was like, that was another defining moment. It was very special to be out there. And it did feel like literally being in a dream, because it was just something I'd never imagined, especially happening in a year. That was like a couple of years plan. So that was definitely another defining emotional day for me. Like, I played Sash by night, and that was just out of this world. It was just, you know, when you're dropping beats and it's just like the room is so much energy, and it's just like you're just feeling off of, and you're not even got a care in the world. You're just in the mix, mate. It's just like goosebumps. But yeah, that was a big step for me. I'm trying to think of other defining moments.
Beatport, you've had a few big hits on that.
Beatport, yeah. So like, I guess you could talk about Paradise. Like, so the track Paradise was like a very defining moment, because it was kind of, before that I'd had a release on my friend Andrew's label, Lower Hand Records, and that was like the start of like Rossi. That was like Rossi's first release. And then between that, I had a release on Render, when Render had just first started. I think that was it. Those were my first two releases, and Paradise had been cooking since I had that Dub Inventions release. And Paradise, every time I showed it to someone, a friend of mine in the studio, people would say, oh, this is quite a nice track. Like, even people who I didn't think would like that style a bit more vocally were like, that's a really nice track. And I was like, cool. And so I think when it was coming out, the funny thing about Paradise is that it was kind of given to me in a way. So like, a guy called Joe O'Leary, He's an A&R guy. He just hit me up on Facebook. And I'd met him briefly out a couple of times. And he said to me, I think there's this vocal from like the early 90s that I think hasn't been done and could be done by the right artist. And I was like, great. And so he put me in touch with the guy who originally made it, Alex Insight, and we spoke to him and he said he's happy for me to use it and actually re-sung all of the stems of like the vocals of it, because when he'd actually found it, it was all on reel to reel and was warped. So he re-sung it, got it all sorted for me, and like it was amazing. And then from there I was like, I had this, my first sense of pressure as a DJ. I was like, oh, I feel like I've got to perform. I feel like I've got to do it now. Otherwise, all this effort might have been for nothing. But Paradise was like, you know, one of them tracks that when you make it, it doesn't take very long and it just came together very quickly. Those are like, I think all the best tracks I've ever made have happened in one session, probably. And that's how Paradise came about. And then from there, it was like kind of a building stone to when it came out. That's when a lot of doors started to really open. And I got a #1, which was amazing. And then I understood like, okay, how Beatport works and how like the importance of like, I guess, getting your higher rankings. I don't know, it means people see you a lot more, but it was something I'd never thought about when making music. And I still don't, because yes, it's a satisfaction, but it's not why I make music. But what it does show me is that people are enjoying my music. And that's a really great satisfaction to see. Do you know what I mean? Because when I think a lot of people say, oh, I don't focus on the charts, blah, blah, blah. I'm like, I focus on it because it shows me how much people are enjoying the track. And
It's important, mate. It's something I've neglected like massively. The whole Beatport side. Just too many of my tracks have been on vinyl only, and then it shows then, because it's a domino effect. Say one track gets sold on Beatport, you go and look at your other tunes, and it's like a snowball effect. And then
100%.
You've got to be on there now, I think, on football.
Yeah, I think because there was that whole, I didn't know with like, so my first, the Rockin' Ross McCormack release was vinyl only. And so I'd had that, but when speaking to Hamza about it, I think it was more just like, I think that's the only way. The plan was more people want to know who you are around the world, so more people are going to book you. So what we thought about was like, after a while, geographically, what labels to go for. So like Tamango, Italian label. So was Moan, Heads Up, French label. Like instead of just thinking, oh, this label is great and they're English, it was more just geographically, what labels can I release on? All those people from those countries are going to support that label, so therefore know who I am. And I guess Beatport's a great way of doing that. I guess you could do that vinyl only, but it's just something I hadn't thought of at first. You know what I mean? And so, like, I think Beatport has been great in a way for me because, it's just been like, I guess, astounding. Like the reactions from people on Beatport. Like there's a lot of times I'll release a track and I think that one's probably, I don't know, people might not like that as much, and then it goes quite high up in the charts. And it's like, oh, okay, people are liking it a lot.
Yeah, it's funny. The Beatport machine's funny because my Tamango track on the rollover, which is like a track, I don't know if I've even played it in a club. It got like top 10 on the minimal deep set, like 8th. And I'm like, hold on a sec.
Yeah.
I've made 100 tracks better than this and you're all buying this one.
Exactly, man. But that's the, like, a lot of the times when I release an EP, I'll have in mind what I think is the one that's of the EP, and it's never that one.
Never.
Never. It's always the one that I'm like I made a track called Kerivim, which come out on No Art, and like the No Art guys, they like Jesse and Oz, the other guys, they like changed my life. They were like the first guys who brought me to Amsterdam, and that was like gave me this whole like scene in Amsterdam, which was brilliant. I released a track on their label called Kerivim. And it was like meant to be like third B-side track. That was the track that everyone just loved. Everyone went for it. And I was like, I didn't even like that track that much, but then it made me like it a lot more. And I think, oh, actually have a lot more, like I said at the start, have a lot more pride in yourself and understand that actually what you do is pretty good.
Yeah, it's hard because obviously when you put any EPs together, there's probably a few that I've actually never released. And then it's like when you're releasing that track and I'm like, I don't like that track. They're like, you need to release that track. But it's that, that thing in it.
And it's like what my taste, even though like I make music, is going to be completely different to the person who's listening to it. And they might love that side of me. Like this kind of year of me making music, I've been exploring a lot more of like a deeper side. And just trying to like break the mold of like just the Rossi sound, because there's a lot more to me and what I like. And I think everyone needs to do that as an artist. But for a while, I was just so in the mode of like, I know what works in a club. I like making bangers. Do you know what I mean?
It's easy, innit? It's
Yeah,
easy.
and
It's
I
easy.
think
Just yeah, go on.
everyone has to go through that because it's just what you know, what you like. Whereas now it's just been more exploratory, and now I feel like I've kind of got the time and also just like the room to be able to say, okay, this is what I want to try to do. These are the sorts of tracks I want to try to put out. And even still, I don't know, you get messages from people saying, I really like what you're doing with that track. It's just like, it gives you like a little bit of satisfaction of like, okay, people are along the right. But for me, it's just like now it's just exploring music because I like exploring it. Whereas before I was just making tracks, especially just for clubs, because I just wanted to make tracks that I could then turn up on a Saturday and go and play and just make everyone have a party. But now I haven't got that. You make music for a completely different reason, which at first I struggled with. So now it's been like a great learning curve.
Yeah, I think
But
that's
yeah,
good. I think that's good, man. It's like you want to show a different side to you. I think it's easy when you make club tracks to feel like other people look at you like, oh, it's just that guy that makes the club tracks. Do you know what I
of
mean?
course, man. Cool. And like, I think at first there's like kind of no shame in that because I want to make music so people dance in a club.
Yeah.
But then I think if you want to start maturing a bit more, you have to be open to exploring and have to be open to different vibes and styles and stuff like that. And that's what like I think last year's definitely was about.
Yeah. I think I call it just like the chin stroker aspect. There's always that guy in the corner with the club stroking his chin, like,
Yeah.
he's playing to this, to that, to this.
Yeah.
Needs some more of this, and it's just like, come on, mate, it's a party.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah. But like I think what also I've learned is that you're not going to be everyone's cup of tea. Like you can't think that, I don't know, I can't think that Raresh is going to come walk along and think, yeah, I love that Rossi track. Do you know what I mean? Even though I'd love him to.
Yeah.
You have to understand what you do and what you value. Maybe one day one of those guys might play one of my tracks. Definitely not with my name on it. But it's just, I think you have to kind of like understand where you are and
I really love that you said that, mate, because sometimes as I'm teaching loads now and I speak to a lot of people day to day and they're asking for advice, they want to be everything. They want to be RPR, they want to be Apollonia, they want to be Jamie Jones, they want to be Villalobos. And I'm like, you're probably going to have to pick
one of those.
You don't have to, obviously you can spread your wings and people just go, I'll make an alias. I'm like, mate, do you know how hard it is to make it with one name? Never mind two, or three. It takes a lot of work, and dedication. But yeah, the unfortunate thing is you can make as much music as you want. When it comes to really releasing and trying to pick up traction, I think it's important. You need to kind of pick some kind of avenue and direction.
Yeah, exactly.
And the trajectory is so important that things can obviously change along the way, but you can't release your first tune on Hot Creations and then expect to get booked by the Ghost at Hoppertoss. Like, it's not.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly. It's changed. And I think it's funny because that at first I was one of those people who was like, at first I was one of those people who just wanted to make music. It was fun. And then when I started thinking about it, I was like, I like that deeper stuff, but then I like that. And then I started to see, okay. But I think that kind of, I guess, middle ground got me to where my sound was, which was like I loved that kind of, at the time, the tech house sound, but I also liked, I liked real minimal, and then I liked sort of groove house. And I think all of those three things combined of wanting to kind of be that was amplified in my sound. And that's why at first when I was making music, I did not realize that I had a sound, as you call it. It was only till people started going to me, I really like your sound. I was like, oh, okay. People like my sound. I don't know what it is yet, but I'm glad you like it. And then it was, so I think in terms of decision making, I think you kind of need to stick on your path. But in terms of inspiration, take that Apollonia bounty, like perks, take those Jamie Jones bass lines, take the claps that a rapper uses, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I really like that. That's a really good point. I guess there's difference between inspiration and trajectory of your career. Like 100% taking inspiration from everything, but you can't try and be everything. In terms of like, you're not going to be able to play gigs at Hoppertoss, then play, I don't know, Egg London, do you know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, it's just a good example. But I think taking inspiration from everything and collecting all sorts of records is a great way to just hear new sounds. And I think that's how you can really find your sound, by I kind of, yeah, like you just said then, you like a bit of this, like a bit of that, fuse
Yeah.
it together, and then you've got something
Yeah.
really cool.
That's honestly, I think, how my sound was, like, I guess, kind of born. I was always obsessed with bass lines, like bass lines, bass lines, bass lines. But I didn't want like the crazy amount of drums. I loved it when there was a clean, like, I always think of Saturday Night at Fabric. Like, I used to go Fabric on a Saturday night and watch like Craig Richards and all that, and just the beats were just so clean cut. But then at that time it was a sound that was just so, like, had a lot of groove to it, and it wasn't too deep. And I took so much inspiration from that. I wanted to make beats that were like stripped back at the top, but like so punching on the bottom. And there was inspirations from, I don't know, your kind of soulful grooves with like the percussion. But then, like I said, there was inspirations from like the kind, when you hear the clap of something in Romania, it's like, bah, so clean, so precise. I wanted to always have that kind of element in the track. And then I took a lot of inspiration from like Alexis Cabrera. He was like a god to me when at that time when I was listening to music, because his sound is so precise and exactly what I wanted to make, but maybe a touch more energy. So I think it's really important to listen to music and get inspiration, because at the start, that's all I was doing. And I think it's funny, you could say this, I'm a DJ, but I think middle of this year, I forgot to listen to music again because I was making so much of it. I was just trying to make loads of tracks, but I was finding it hard. And it's purely because I wasn't getting inspired in any way. And I'd stopped searching for music because I was like, well, I'm not playing anytime soon, so I'll just make some stuff. Whereas I've realized when you start searching for music and you're doing all your digging, that's when your best inspiration comes around. You'll hear that record and you go, oh, that's the vibe. Okay, that's inspired me in that way. Let me go in the studio and just think about that and like explore. That's like, I think it's key one, keep looking for music. So now in my schedule, it's really funny. On Thursdays, I start just like looking for music in the afternoon. So like afternoons is just for like digging, promos, all that stuff, because I didn't do it for a while this year. And I think when you spend literally a day just sitting there thinking and like replenishing like your palette, it's like the best thing. And so I'd give that advice to anyone, just keep looking for music.
Yeah, I really love what you said there about the really thinking about what you actually like in other kinds of music. I think that's a great way to kind of get your sound. Like for me, it's like I really like old sounding records, but I've kind of come to the conclusion more recently that I want it to still be punchy enough to be able to be played by your more housey DJs. Not to conform to that, but I don't want to make records which are unplayable, you know, like super old, dusty, and then they don't really have that. But like find that in between. I've kind of pinpointed what I like in each kind of record, and then
exactly.
It's a good way to do it, I think.
Yeah, 100%. Even not in just like, I think you'd agree, like not in just house music, in any kind of like sound, like just I think you posted about them as well. I love Karangbin.
Yeah, so good, man.
They're bloody amazing, and like their inspiration's brilliant. They're inspired by Thai Japanese funk from the 60s. Like, and it's like how it's such a niche thing, but like even there's elements in their music that I'm like, oh, I like that. I want to somehow get that into music. Or it's kind of like, it makes me think of like, not R.I.P. this guy, but Avicii back in the day. If you just take what he did technically, like, yes, he was like, seemed as EDM, but what he did was brilliant. But he started incorporating folk music and things like that and getting inspired by that. That is like, I think when you stop becoming just a DJ and you start becoming an artist, because you actually really thinking on that musical level. So I think it is just important to, I keep saying it, like, replenish your palette. Just keep listening to all sorts of music. Don't just listen to house. I get inspired by so much hip hop as well, because the beats in hip hop are just like, speed it up. You've got a wicked break beat, and then you just start making. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's so much inspiration out there.
Yeah, I think listening's so important. It sounds so simple, but it's almost like, when do you listen? I guess a standard thing would be go to the gym, but with no gyms open. But yeah, I always like to do like an album while I'm going for a run or training. But yeah, always other genres. I think Tame Impala is a good one. Yeah, it's I think I read a Silver Lining article. He wrote about this, about, say you're really into disco, listen to the disco. What is it you like about it? Is it the bass lines? Or is it the drums? And you kind of take them kind of sounds, put them in your own.
100%. Yeah, disco is very much one of them, because it's just inspired so much, I guess, house music kind of styles. You hear it a lot in like edits and things like that. Wicked.
So I've wrote down here, how was touring initially then? It's something I've done with my gigs abroad. I had Sash penciled in, but that would have been the first proper long stint away from home. But
Yeah.
have you done a couple now, or just the one?
I done it was like, I'd say one. So I did like Bali and then Australia. That was like my first effective tour. And that was like, but I'd say like week to week that that I'd essentially call that touring, because there was like Halloween weekend where I started getting really busy, and I was in Paris on a Thursday for Halloween, then Amsterdam, was I in Amsterdam? No, Manchester Friday night, then Amsterdam, then Southend, all in one weekend. And that was just like go, go, go. And I was playing. What I found interesting about touring is that you start to learn how hard it is physically to be a DJ, which I never thought would be the case. And also, I don't want to say like, oh, woe is me, I'm a DJ, because it's the best career ever. I'm so grateful. But I think you don't really realize how much of a mental and physical strain it takes on you, not sleeping, being at parties, and trying to, when you turn up as a DJ, me personally, I want to be like energy. I want to be like the life and soul of a party, because I'm there to perform in a way. And so to keep that going when you're 4 gigs in over 2 days, it's just like, and that was like, I think what I've learned about touring is to look after yourself a lot more than I did, because I got fat as well. I put on a lot of weight because I just felt too tired to exercise in the week, because the weekends were just so much and it just wasn't in my mindset. Whereas now, I think that's why I valued 2020, because I'd go back to touring with a different mindset and understand how to look after myself properly. Whereas at the start, I was just figuring things out. And also, especially your first year as a DJ, you see it, or I saw it as my year to prove myself to a lot of people, and so people knew who I was. And also, I think there's an importance of when you meet a promoter, it's like just being a nice person and having fun with them, so they want to work with you again. I learned that as an actor. It's just like when you turn up on set, you want to be a person that someone wants to like ask back again. Oh, that Rossi guy, he was really nice, wasn't he? Oh yeah, and that's why you've always, in my head, I always have to be like ready and like and give people as much attention as I can give them. Do you know what I mean? And also enjoy it, because the more you enjoy yourself, the more the promoter will enjoy themselves, the more the crowd are gonna love it. So I think it's just time management when you start first touring, and sleeping as much as you possibly can. But I think it was unbelievable, and I think in that first year, after parties are brilliant. Not every after party was as good as I thought it was going to be, but like there was an where was we? I was with Laidlaw and my friend French, and they'd come up to see me, and we turned up at an after party, and they had decks and no speakers, and then they were trying to get one KRK. They got one KRK working, but it was one of the tiny ones. We're trying to have start an after party going on that, and I was like, I never again am I saying yes to an after party.
They're the worst ones. When you say yes to it, you get there and there's like 4 people in a bedroom or something. There's empty. It's funny. It's all part of it.
Yeah, exactly. It's brilliant, because you look back at it, that was hilarious. Do you know what I mean? But then there's some after, like I played an after party in Paris, and they'd hired this Parisian mansion in the middle of the city centre, and it was unbelievable. There were so many people there, and it was just like the proper vibes. Oh, mate, it was incredible. And those moments, I think, those are where, as a DJ as well, I think there's a lot to prove at an after parties. People have made careers off of being after party DJs. So it's like, I think it's when you have to bring your A game and you have to think about it. And also, like, in terms of touring, it's like, obviously as a DJ, you're around drink and things like that. And like, I guess a lot of people talk about drugs, and like, there's the mental side of being a DJ. And I think it's so important to take stock of yourself and take care of yourself, because you can really see why a lot of DJs go down a dark path.
Yeah.
Because my agent Nick asked me a question when we started going into lockdown. He said, "Do you find it? Are you having withdrawal symptoms in this time because you're not getting that satisfaction that you were getting every weekend, or the praise that you were getting every weekend? So like at the weekend, you're the DJ, you're the guy, you're the one that people come up to you like, say your name and that. Then in the weeks you're back, and it's that high and low is like a drug itself. So then if you see someone who's doing drugs on top of that, it's just like that high to low becomes bigger and bigger the bigger you get. Then you're playing to 10,000 people at the weekend, and you go home and you're just on your sofa on your own. That is what I like kind of foresaw a bit in like, whoa, okay, that's a really important thing to kind of take stock in yourself. And I've not really figured a way of like understanding it yet. I think it's just as you go, but it's something I think to always take note of, is that like, I don't know, I think it's important to always bring yourself down to the ground in the weeks.
Keep the ego in check, man.
Yeah, do the very normal things and go play football and go, do you know what I mean? And do all the things that you do in life instead of get wrapped up in a world of it.
Yeah, I think football's a good one. There's nothing more humbling than getting taken out by some gruff, you know what I mean?
100%. Like, there's nothing more I look forward to than a Wednesday night and it's pissing down with rain. I mean, me and the boys can just have a laugh kicking the ball about. I love it.
Yeah,
I love it, mate.
Wednesday gives you enough time to get over the weekend as well, doesn't it?
Exactly, mate.
It's a big one. Yeah, it's a good answer, man. I think truly you'll never ever be prepared, I guess, at all. You just got to go in with it, innit?
No, it's all a massive learning process. And like life is, you're just constantly learning and constantly building and adapting. Also, just get used, if you're getting busy, get used to airports and planes. Get used to that, because
get used to being on your own.
Yeah, get used to being on your own. And also get used to being on your own. For me, especially in countries where you're not speaking the language, and a lot of people don't speak the language. I've been at many, and I was at an after party in Amsterdam, and everyone spoke Dutch the whole time. No one was speaking English, and I was just like, you're just sitting there. When I went to Brazil, and like I was just like, you just get used to. But the main amazing thing about touring is what I would take is enjoy that process and learn people's cultures and immerse yourself in cultures. Like I went to Italy, and I love food. And so my other thing whilst touring is to try all the local stuff that club where it is has to offer. So when I went to Italy, wherever I go, I eat everything. I'll just eat. I love food. So I'll always say to promoter, you order for me, I'll have whatever you say. And so when I was in Italy, they brought out all this amazing Italian stuff and this amazing bolognese. I had bolognese in Bologna. It was unbelievable. And it made me understand Italian food. Before then, sorry all you Italians, but I thought Italian food was overrated. And it's purely because I wasn't having the right Italian food. Once I had it, and like they brought out this raw meat, and I was like, oh God, what is that? And I thought it was like duck tartare or something, and it was horse. He was like, no, this is horse. And I was like, horse, and he was like, from me to you. And I was just like, okay, I've got to eat it now, haven't I? So what you do, you put like lemon and a bit of salt and some olive oil on this horse, and then it like mushes up, and then you have it. It was really nice. But what they say is like it's an honor to eat it, because the horse has died very naturally, and like so it's an absolute honor to be able to have that, and it was like the best way to do it. And I was like, oh, okay, interesting. But then I went to Germany, in Frankfurt, and I shot myself in the foot. I was like, yeah, I'll have whatever you guys think. I'm not a biggest fan of cheese, and this dish that come out was like this high protein, low fat cheese with pickled onions and bread, and they was all having like these steaks and all of this stuff, and I was like, and it tasted, no offense guy, it tasted like there was a farm in my mouth. It was like and I was like, oh my God, and like I was just, and they were going, how is it? And I was trying to go, oh yeah, it's all right, like not that good. And I was very jealous. I was like, yeah. So then I learned a bit of lesson there. But I think ultimately it's important, if you are traveling a lot, to immerse yourself in the cultures, because when else in my life am I ever going to get to go to these places, or would
Yeah.
have ever thought to have gone to them?
I would say more than ever now, like sometimes get the itch. I'm like, oh, I want to go traveling. But I guess the best way to do it is we're lucky. We've got a job where it allows it. So
I
exciting.
feel, yeah, as much as, yes, yeah, I complain about tiredness and things like that, the memories and the moments that I've had so far, just being at gigs, are just stuff that I'll take with me for the rest of my life. It's an absolute honor to do it.
Yeah. So the last point I've got wrote down is Unite. Is it Unite Homegrown? Is it a night or is it just
It's not a night. It's just,
no?
well, it started. It's a brand now. I'd say. So Homegrown started as a just a podcast. I was asked, or I got the option to do a 4-hour show on Ibiza Sonica Radio. Got asked to do it, and Hamza was like, maybe this might be a good idea. Maybe we could start. Obviously, I was an actor, so I always liked the idea of maybe hosting a radio show of some sort or doing that to do with music. And I'd always had the idea of like showcasing not the biggest artists, but trying to get a show where you could have big artists and smaller artists and kind of use them to showcase. And so the name Homegrown just came from, I like that everyone's sound and who they are and everything they build is part of where they're from. And like, so they're homegrown from themselves. So it was never like, oh, homegrown from the UK.
Yeah.
It was more, I like seeing where different people are from and what they're inspired by at their home. Do you know what I mean? And they've grown up from that. So it's like homegrown. So it started as just a radio show. And then instead of just doing it on IB for Sonica Radio, I was having to get 4 hours worth of a show each like month. Yeah. So then we stopped doing it on radio and I just started doing it on my SoundCloud. And the method so far has just been get someone who people might not know and showcase their sound of who I like and introduce them to people so that they can start maybe building a following and stuff like that. And then also get someone who people might know as part of that to showcase them off as well. And that's been like the thing about it. And then from there, loads of people started liking the show. And I do intros on the show. So I talk about the artists. I explain a bit about them. Some geezer wrote the other day, though. He was like, 2 minutes of chatting. All right, Rossi. And I was like, fair play, mate. But I just like intro. I love it because when I used to hear mixes, I liked hearing their sound. And I know not every DJ wants to do this. But I wanted to know more about that DJ just a little bit because, you can go and research it. But I thought it'd be a nice touch just to explain a little bit about who this DJ is, where they're from, before you hear their mix. So then you can just get a feel for that. And I think people have liked that. And so it's something I've always kept on doing. And then it's become like a brand. And I think at one point I will start doing Homegrown label and a party and stuff. It's definitely in my mind of things, but I've been very wary not to rush it because I think if you start trying to do everything at once, it's like you'll spread yourself very thin. I've still got a lot of my goals. One of those is the Homegrown label and like the parties and stuff, but that's down the line. I want to build myself to a point where I can do that. And then, but we've started this kind of clothing brand off of it as well. Because when I was speaking to the guy who made Paradise, this guy, Alex, his name's Insight, he was speaking about Strictly Rhythm and how back in the day, Strictly Rhythm, if you had one of those Strictly Rhythm jackets, you were like the guy. Like you'd walk around the club, everyone would be like, all right, he's got a Strictly jacket. So then me and Hamza heard that and we were like, maybe we should make some homegrown jackets, just like design them ourselves and we'll be the only ones to wear them. And suddenly when we design it, people are like, where can I get that jacket? Where can I get it? Can I get a jacket? Loads of people. And we'd only made 2 and we numbered them 01 and 02. So that every single one we make is going to be a higher number. And then from there, people have been going wild about where can I get a jacket? And so many people kept asking me that. I was like, they're not for sale. My idea is that when I do have a party, anyone who comes and pays for the party, I'll give them a jacket. And that's how it'll work. So then I was like, okay, people want some of this merch that I've created. So we thought about the idea during 2020 of making hoodies. And it was great because what we did, we just created a limited stock and just said, right, if you can If you can get in quick enough, you can get hoodies. And I think that's what we're going to kind of just keep doing. And we've started to get exploratory now. Like I want to make like a homegrown sauce and some homegrown socks and all this stuff.
Yeah. I love it, man.
It's just another sort of creative side, and it helps. I don't know. It's another fun thing that I never thought I'd end up doing. But homegrown, I don't know. It's a fun thing that started out as a little radio podcast that now is like a big part of my life, I'd say.
It's amazing, man. Really organic as well. Like everything, it seems that's so far. And yes, the socks, man. SYNTHO socks has crossed my mind as well. It's got a good ring to it.
Yeah, because I tell you for why. Because there's nothing like a great pair of socks. Every Christmas that comes round, I get a fresh set of socks, but they get ruined so quickly.
Exactly. I think you can never have too many.
I was speaking to Lauren Lowe Sung, and she said that on her rider it's a fresh pair of socks.
Yeah, it's not a bad idea.
And I'm like, that's brilliant. I was like, it just makes you feel good for the day.
Yeah, I think that's actually a very good. I think the Martinez Bros do that. You know, I think I've heard that before from them. Can you hear me, mate? I lost you a bit.
Mate, riders. I can say. Riders is a funny one. Like, oh wait, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you, mate.
Yeah, sorry. It just said my connection's unstable. My Wi-Fi's so bad at my house. Riders is a hilarious one because I never know when people started say what's on your rider, what do you want? I'm like, I don't know. Like, what do you want to give me? I don't really care. Do you know what I mean?
It's
but
harder,
then as you start, I guess, touring, you start to see, you start to value, I guess, maybe the things you could put on it. So like, I know a couple of friends of mine who have like a Nature Valley bar and some vitamins and some things like that, just because then when they're touring and they haven't had time to like eat what they need to, that's valuable. And people might see that and go, oh God. But I think that's like important. But where you hear some people are like a pair of trainers or
mate,
like
running you and me in hide and seek. I've seen it.
Mate.
I've seen it all. I can't disclose any of them, but I've seen some. I'm like, come on.
Man, I can imagine.
I think it's hard because like I get it now. If you're getting paid like X amount of money and something costs say £100 and you're only, I'm not on about small fees, I'm not big fees. It's like it's only 5% of the fee, even if that. Like
exactly.
If it makes our life better, I get it. But obviously it's a bit of an inconvenience.
How has it been for you with you and me? Like how has that all been, and how did that like? I don't really know how that started. Was that
it started, mate, it's the most organic process in the world. It's almost like the typical story. Went to Ibiza for a summer. I dropped out. Dropped out university. Went to Ibiza for the summer. Told my dad I want to become a DJ. Told my mum, like, right, go on then. Like, full support.
Good luck.
I enrolled to a music school the year after, but they're super supportive. Like the whole time, they were like, "We believe if you want to go and do it, we'll support you for X." Like, go
for it.
So went to Ibiza. Similar to what happened with your manager, I was staying in a villa with quite a lot of older guys. Like I was the youngest guy there. I was only 18, which is quite a ballsy thing to do looking back. Like going to Ibiza with, didn't even know him that well, to be honest. I only know about 6 months. In a villa for a month, and then I was on the decks, and then my mate Kurt went, "You're pretty good at DJing, you know." I was like, "Am I?" He was like, "Mate, you're really good." I was like, "Nice one, mate." I'd played a couple of gigs at Sankey's and Mint Club when I was 18. Just off the back of like networking. Like persistent as fuck. Like people ask me how to get gigs, and I'm like, you've got to probably be in the right place, right time, but you've also got to be nice guy, ask the right questions, and just
100%.
Have a bit about you. So I played a couple of gigs, and we were there, and he already ran his own night, which wasn't really going anywhere. And I think I played one gig, and I said like, going into next year, I want to start my own night. I don't want to be part of. I want something mine. I always envisioned me being the guy. Not in like a narcissistic way, but I wanted to be the guy, like my own thing.
Like your party,
I choose like what I say, you know what I mean? Pull the strings, choose who we book. Came up from Ibiza, found a tiny little venue in Fallowfield called Kotao, 100 people, and then did another one. No, 200, sorry. We sold out the first night. It was like, wonder if anyone will turn up. Like 250 people crammed into a 100 capacity basement. We charged like £5 in the door or something. It felt like I'd won the lottery. You know, like,
it's amazing.
And then did another one a month later, and then we ended up doing a booking the following March, and we had Phil Weeks and the Mechanism. Like your first party, you fucked out a lot. And it didn't really go to plan we didn't do bad in numbers, but we thought it was going to be like the party, have a time. Everyone's in my head. I thought if I post about it enough times, everyone's gonna have to be there. But now I've learned a lot down the line. Force feeding promotion down people's throats isn't actually the best way. But that's another topic of conversation for another day. But yeah, that one didn't quite go to plan. But since then, it's me, Dash, Mo, and Kurt, like the four that we own it. And then also we've got local dub, which is Seb and Emil. We've got Alfie, Jensen, my brother's involved. So we've got like a really strong mate. We're all just mates, but we're all really confident in each other. Kurt, I'll definitely get him on the podcast at some point. He does events, so does Dash and Mo. So they've got a really good experience in events, but not doing house music events. Then obviously I focus on the DJing, so it means between us it's like a dream team. And
I think what I've seen about people around the scene is that the importance of like who's around you and your team. Because before I just thought you're a DJ, that's what you do. You're on your ones, that's how you build it. But until I started to meet the people who helped me a lot behind doors that no one really knows about, that's like for me, half of Rossi is Hamza, my manager. I would say, like, without him it wouldn't have happened. So it's like I think the importance of that team is like massive. That's I think it'd be very hard, and I think some people probably have done it, but it's like very hard to just come up with it all on your own, because the importance of just brainstorming ideas. And I'd give that advice. A lot of people say, like, starting out, like, how do I do it? I'd say get someone who fancies working and like likes music and just brainstorm ideas with them. That's all you need to do. And get, like, you could fake it to make it in a way of like, just set up a domain, and if someone wants to book you, just get them to email your friend who's your manager and just say, oh yeah, could you just email this person please? Then immediately you're on like a professional level, and then you start.
I think it's really, really like good to say that even if they don't give you any advice, I think just having someone to vent to that's prepared to listen. I think Kurt and my mom, like two people that really made me realize my potential. And even if he didn't give advice in some circumstances, I knew if there was a problem or I thought of a label or I thought of this, like I could go and explain the situation to them, and then having that set up behind me and kind of like a hierarchy of just everything had a place. If I need to speak to Kurt about a potential gig, and then he deals with my bookings for a lot, and now he's my manager, then my mum just like listen to anything. It's important to have that structure, and nothing happens on your own, like you say.
It's important just to even talk it out, because I don't think you can make a proper decision unless you talk it through, like with someone, like really, because it's just like if it's something like valuable like that, it's just how are you going to get it out? You need to weigh up the options, and even if that person has no idea what you're talking about, at least you've spoken it out loud and gone, actually, I know what I want to do.
Same with my girlfriend as well. Like when I just getting it all out, and even if they don't give any advice on the situation, just having the problem out in front of you, it just makes it much more clearer.
100%.
I think that's a good point, man. Anything else to add to that?
No, I guess no. Not really. I think we've covered a lot.
It's good. That's gone like down. It's covered everything I wanted to cover, but it's gone deeper than I expected. And
I just like, you guess, I don't know. Just
it's quite similar stories we've had, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly. And I think like I didn't think that a lot of people would have similar kind of. I thought everyone else in this scene would have just wanted to be a DJ their whole lives. Where it's like it's not the case. Everyone's got their like backstories of like you, like changing from university and then going straight into that. It's like I love hearing everyone's different ways of getting into it. It just shows you that like anyone from what you've done can go into it and build it. Like I always think if I've gone and got to where I've got to, anyone can bloody do it. Honestly, it's just like.
I've got some fun questions to ask you, but first, just while I remember, I think what you said at the start about you wrote down about playing Sash, and a year later it happened. I'm not a believer in what I said to Ollie, The Secret, that book. What is it?
In like I don't know. In like manifestation.
I do believe in it. However, I don't believe in like this whole like if you think something's going to happen, I think it's got to really be written down and it's got to actually be on paper. Because I remember I wrote a lot of things down, like Constant Sound, I released on him. Infuse, I'm working on something for them. There's a lot of things I've wrote down and it's happened, and I think if you actually do that and write it down, but some people would say that no, it doesn't work, but it's like but you don't believe in yourself. Like me and you, it's evident we believe we can achieve anything in this scene. Like there's 100%. No reason why me and you won't be a DC 10 in 2 years time or whatever.
Exactly.
But if someone else, you said to them, right, if you write down what you want to do next year, release on a label, they'll be like, oh, well, that won't make a difference anyway. But it's like, yeah, that's your mindset, and you don't believe it can happen.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think,
go on.
I think I've never ever felt overwhelmed by the task at hand. I've never ever thought like I can't do this. I've just known that the process that I had in place, chipping away, getting better, was always going to come out on top.
I think that's important because I agree with you in the sense. I think some people would think, oh, I'm just going to write something down and one day it will happen. It's like, no, you write that thing down. So it's like, what do I need to do to achieve that? How can I get it? That's like, so I always write down 3 goals of the week. And those 3 goals of the week, it can be anything massively or very small. But it means everything I'm doing in that week is focused towards those 3 goals. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
And it's like that's how I take everything. Like before working with Hamza, I wasn't a really big goal setter. But it was just writing stuff down means you're putting it into action. And wait, there's a thing. One sec. There's a friend of mine sent it to me about goals. Okay, here we go. A dream written down with a date becomes a goal. A goal broken down into steps becomes a plan. A plan backed by your actions make your dream come true. That's how I would see exactly what I would do about stuff.
Yeah,
and that's important.
I said in my email to Close 2020 was going into next year, don't set goals that the end result, do it, but don't focus on that. If your goal is to release an EP by the end of the year on your own label, well, that's all well and good, but how are you going to achieve that? You need to have some metrics that can be measured. So I said, for example, you want to make 1 track a week. That should be the metric that should be measured, or even less than that. I want to go in the studio 2 hours a day. That can be ticked off. If you did it or didn't, it's a yes or no. But there's external factors that can contribute towards releasing your own EP at the end of the year. Because maybe it might not end up being good enough. But if you know you've stuck to this plan that you actually had, then you've done all you could. And then in the end,
100%. I think I've never realized the importance of goals, especially if you're gonna work for yourself. That's like you have to motivate yourself. I think that's sometimes the hardest thing, to be self-employed. It's like you're your own boss, but that comes with all of its pressures, because it's like you've got to get yourself up every day and do it. No one's going to go in life, no one's going to do it for you anyway. But say if you're working for someone, I think it's completely different. To go and motivate yourself, I think that's a massive way to do it. And just, I think the main bit of advice of anything, enjoy everything, enjoy the process, enjoy it. Yeah, it's going to be hard, but because you love it, remember that even when it gets hard, you're never going to stop it because you love it so much.
And
go on.
If it was easy, everyone would be doing it anyway.
Exactly, man. Exactly. I think there was a point you made earlier about this is sidetracking, but especially for younger DJs, what you said about networking, I think I've kind of overlooked that in talking about the story of how I got to where, but what you said about the importance of networking, going out and talking, getting yourself known, meeting people, and do you know what I mean, putting yourself out there, that's half of it, maybe even more than half of it.
It's massive, because
it's yes, you can have all the music in the world and you can be great at it, but unless anyone knows who you are, a lot of the time people don't want to work with people that they don't really know sometimes. So it's especially getting your foot in the door, go out to the parties you speak to the people who run it, go do all that stuff, because at the time I was doing that, not really knowing that was going to be so valuable to me in the future. And I think what you said earlier, I'd say that's such a massive piece of advice for people.
That was probably one of my best skills. I actually put a lot of my early success down to, I used to go to a lot of club nights, and I used to always maybe have too much to drink and always go and chat to that DJ. There's a fine line. Don't be an annoying twat. I have been an annoying twat sometimes on nights out. I remember Livio and Robbie played once at Gorilla, and they do not want to chat to me. They do not want to talk to me. And I think they were playing they couldn't really, or they just couldn't. The music was too loud, and they're asking them questions and that. But I think there's times that I've done that, and it's contributed towards maybe getting their email. But don't
100%.
You can't be the annoying guy either. I have been. We've all been the annoying guy.
Of course, mate. You get excited, and it's just you're speaking to people who you really respect. But
you just give them a lot. Just go and give them hi. Give it a chance, innit? And then if they're open to conversation, then just be like, "Oh, mate, can I give your email?" Then I think hit it off from there. But it's a good way to put a name to a face. Goes much further than just being an Instagram DM spammer. Do you know what I mean?
100%, mate.
But we didn't have
100%, I'd
that.
say.
That didn't exist. Like
That's what I mean. So at the time, it was like that. The only way of getting about was going and speaking to someone personally. Instagram wasn't as much of a thing now. Whereas I think now a lot of people use Instagram to try hit up. Where it's like when you get a lot of spam from different people, you find it hard to differentiate what's genuine and what's not. So it's like when clubs open back up, get out there, speak to people, get to know who you are.
It's really hard because people send like, it'll be even worse for you, I'm sure. I get so many links, and obviously I'm running SYNTHO as well. So I've got to like prioritize my time, and people don't understand how time consuming it is to check tracks.
100%. A lot of people ask for feedback, and I try whenever I can to do it. But if I give feedback to someone, a lot of the time, unless I listen to it properly, I'm like, I want to give you proper feedback, and
that's what I say. It takes 10.
I mean?
I know it sounds like short, but it takes at least 10 minutes to take that track, and then it's like, who to listen to.
Yeah.
So I just, inside my SYNTHO, I just do like a feedback Friday. So I'll spend a few hours just going through it all. But
that's really good.
Half-hearted feedback is useless as well. I'm sure you'd agree.
Exactly. 100%.
And it's subjective feedback. So it's like,
because that's what at first when people started asking me for feedback, I'm like, I'm only going off of what I'm saying here. This isn't the be all or end all, but this is what I like or what I would do. Do you know what I mean?
I think it's hard because you don't know what they like, and I think taste can play a big part in what you're going to say back to them, innit?
Exactly, because someone might send you something that is great in that genre, but I'm like, I don't really like that. But I could build upon that. I don't know, but it's a difficult one.
So, mate, we'll do the 10 questions now. 10 questions in 10 minutes. Okay. I did time it for Ollie, but they're fun ones, but I'm not even going to bother timing it because they're not too long. But we'll start with number one. What was the best purchase of 2020?
Best purchase of 2020? This.
The whiteboard.
This bad. Actually, that bad boy, but also that bad boy. To be honest, I wouldn't call it a purchase. That was like kind of given to me in a way, but I'd call it a purchase. That has been
it's the Yamaha RMX one.
Yeah, Yamaha RM1X. That's it. It is amazing. It was Reese Laidlaw's old one. And I bought this mixer off him as well. Those kind of two purchases, brilliant.
Are you using them a lot?
Yeah, especially the Yamaha, because the drums on it, you can build such great grooves off of it and get. For me, I was trying to mature my sound a lot more this year, and I think a lot of the aspects was the drums just weren't organic enough. Yeah. And I think as soon as you kind of get that sound, that helped me so much, and it's opened up a new world of inspiration, which has just been amazing for me. And I think for me that's been one of my best purchases. Or that bloody thing, whiteboard. I honestly, everyone's been going mental with me about like how much to talk about it, but I think whiteboards will change your life. Honestly, get a whiteboard.
I've got one, but I don't use it too much because I need to put it on the wall. I think being on the wall is a huge factor to the effectiveness of the whiteboard.
100%.
So number two, what's your go-to breakfast?
Go-to breakfast at the moment. Every day I've had mushroom, cheese, and tomato omelette with just a tin of beans. Sometimes I whack a bit of sometimes I whack a bit of ham in. I saw you made an omelette on your Instagram the other day. And I was like, that's a good. But this is what I thought about it. We make omelettes in a very different way. So you're a guy who you cook all your ingredients, then you put the mixture in and let it blend together. Whereas I put the mixture in first, so I'll cook the egg and then put all the ingredients just when it's getting a bit like middle liquid, and then fold it all over the top.
So it's all inside it.
But surely different ways.
But surely it doesn't cook the peppers and that. Surely the peppers aren't cooked if you do it that way.
I think then I put it under the grill, and then like underneath it just kind of like, I don't know, it cooks in the juices of the omelette. I love it like that.
It's long that, mate.
Just get a juicy middle.
That's long that.
But that's but that's at the moment that's my go-to, omelette and beans.
Yeah. So what's your favourite track of yours that's been released?
Favourite track of mine? There's a track called Pazzo. It's come out on my Locust EP. And I call it Pazzo because it means crazy in Italian. Yeah. And it's just my favourite bass line, just rhythm. I love it. It's my favourite track I've ever made, I think.
Reading or running?
Running.
Favourite quote?
Oh wait. Oh, what is it? It was on the tip
You
of
can phone a friend if you want. Google.
It was
Or
a
you're
no.
not
It was
on
on the
it.
tip of my tongue. Wait. Oh, I've lost it. My favorite. It's on the tip of my tongue. Ask me another, and it will come back to me.
Nando's spice.
Medium.
Just standard, steady. Not gonna upgrade or
Because for some reason I can deal with spice, but Nando's hot. It just hits me in a
too
weird
much.
way. Can't do it. So I'm a medium geezer.
What's your biggest lesson in the last year?
My lesson.
Biggest lesson you've learned in the last year?
Don't compare yourself to others. Stop comparing yourself.
This was a hit with Ollie Ryder. The question: if you're locked in jail, who would you ring to break you out?
He said his cousin Gav, right?
Yeah.
Brilliant. It's a toss-up. It's a toss-up between two people. It's either Hamza, because Hamza, I called him a plug. He's L plug. He's like, if you took a picture of him, he's got 3 prongs and you put him in a wall. He is the plug. Hamza will know a guy who works on the door, who he can get guest list for, who will get me out.
Yeah.
Hamza will 100% do that. So I think I'd go Hamza. My second would be my dad, because he's a nutter, or he'd know someone in the prison who'd sort me out. That definitely.
It's better than, I reckon Gav still sounds more efficient.
Mate, Gav said, mate, you can't beat Gav. I think maybe I'll call up Ollie's cousin.
You ring Gav as well.
Yeah.
What's your guilty pleasure?
Notting Hill, the film. I absolutely love it.
Not seen that.
You've never watched Notting Hill?
No.
Oh,
what makes it a guilty pleasure?
It's like a rom-com.
I like rom-coms.
Yeah,
so.
it's like it's a 90s rom-com. Got Ronan Keating, The Smile on Your Face lets me know that you need me as the soundtrack. That's my guilty pleasure.
That's a Sunday film, it sounds like.
Brilliant.
What's one item you couldn't live without?
One item I couldn't live without. Pair of headphones.
Yeah.
Honestly, I think. Actually, no, I could.
I could live without headphones, mate.
I could live without headphones. It's like something to. I'm just all I thought was music, but it's not. It's not an item. Well, an item I couldn't live without. You've stuffed me.
God, isn't it, mate? Still got the quote as well, bro.
Oh yeah, right. The quote, I've got it. Dream, believe, achieve. That's my quote.
Who's that by? Or just Rossi?
Got no idea. Honestly, I've just heard it once.
That one, mate.
I just heard it once, and it's always stuck with me.
Yeah, like that one.
Thing I couldn't live without. I could live without headphones. Right, you got to go to the next one.
That was it. That's number 10, that, mate. Well, we've got one. There's one more bonus question. It's what do you know now that you wish you knew then?
Fucking hell. This is getting emotional, isn't it?
Yeah.
What do I know now that I wish I knew then? That you don't know everything.
Yeah.
That that every age, I think I know, like, probably not now, but back in the day, I thought I just knew everything about life and who I was and all the experiences I'm ever going to have. And you don't. You're going to be sad. You're going to cry. It's okay to feel your emotions. That's what I'd say now, because it's just like, I think you're always growing up throughout your life thinking you're the big, I don't know, as a guy, I always thought, you know, everything, like with all that. It's just like, no, like you're always a step behind who you are in 5 years' time. So always be open to learning. Yeah,
to add to that, I think you've always got it all figured out. Like now, I think like, right, I've sorted now. Well, I don't think that, because I'm now more wise. But this time last year, I thought, right, I've got it all figured out now. Like my music, DJ, and that. Like this is it now. Then COVID comes along.
Yeah, 100%.
You never know at all. COVID's taught us all that.
100%. You never know what's around the corner. COVID's gonna get you.
So one item.
One item I couldn't live without. What can I not live without? My Ugg slippers. There you go. They're on my feet.
I've got some. I've got the ones with the back on.
Mate, okay, upgraded ones. That's honestly, I think I couldn't live without them. They're lovely. Every day I put these on and I feel like a new man. So
Interesting fact for you. I've got an EP coming out on Locust. One of the tracks is called Slippers All Summer, in reference to when Ugg Slippers All Summer, which is kind of a, yeah.
brilliant. Yeah, mate, Ugg slippers. They're
So
wonderful.
I think that has been an absolute belter, mate.
Yeah.
Anything that people need to check out, keep their eyes peeled for?
Not really. I'm putting out my next Homegrown podcast today. I've got Matt Pre and Frisky Business on there, so it's like
Nice.
a cool, like groovy show. But things to look out for, people will see. Like
People will say, keeping the
pe-
beats under wraps, keeping
yeah,
it secret.
people will see. Like when it comes, it will come. There's some cool stuff in the pipeline. There's some opportunities that have been given that have like really special, really cool that are going to be happening this year. So just keep an eye on the next releases and hopefully, go on. What were you going to say?
One thing I want to ask actually is, what are your? Because I'm kind of on the fence with this. What are your opinions on releasing club tracks even now when there's no clubs?
Very, very good question.
It's hard, isn't it?
So that's what I started to learn. So like I had my Locust EP, which was planned for so long, and then it landed in the middle of it landed in December, which I thought was going to be the end of it, but it wasn't. It was like the crux of it. And it was great, but because they're club tracks, they just seem to fly by, because it's like, yeah, they get released and like, yeah, you see people playing them in their house parties and things like that. But without clubs, they don't circulate as much. And
Shelf
so
life's very short.
100%, mate. And so I think I was chatting with Enzo the other day, and he was saying how he was like, I think in this time, all the EPs that you should be putting out should be more exploratory, showing off like a side of you that maybe not everyone might see, because it's more listening music at the moment than it is just like dance music. But I wouldn't be afraid, because everyone loves a good dance track to make it feel a bit better, even if you're not in a club. Do you know what I mean? So it's just like there's a fine line between it. So I'd say, but it's definitely a time for exploring a lot more in terms of like.
I think we both make quite a lot of music, so it's not like if I didn't release any music, because I've got quite a few EPs coming out. If I didn't release them, I'd end up having like
stacks.
Yeah, and it's
exactly.
And then it's just oversaturating the market. So
that's what I mean. So like with the stuff that I've got coming out, so like there's an EP coming in March. Won't say what it is, but it's definitely exploring a lot more of a deeper side, which I was really homing in on, because I was like, if this is still the way it is at the moment, I kind of wanted to show people that kind of side of me a lot more. But yeah, it's just like, I think also just don't think about it so much. Like, it is what it is. This is the situation. Do what you like. There's no way to do it, man.
Yeah, there's no right or wrong, and disclaimer, everything we're saying is just our opinions.
Disclaimer, massive. I don't know everything. I'm a muppet. I don't even know my favourite quote in the world, so.
Well, mate, I think we can wrap it up there. Thanks so much for your time, man. I think
no worries.
This should be a hit with everyone, I think. It's been insightful and got to know a bit more about you as well, man.
Yeah, it's been a lot of fun. I chat a lot, so I'm going to be very wary watching myself back how much I chat like crazy. But
we've got a good shift in there, mate. I think we've got about an hour and a half, so it's actually a record time, and it's gone very quick. So
yeah, it's been nice, man. I like what you do with this. It's really nice, man. Just to kind of hear everyone's stories and opinions about their lives and where they come from and stuff like that. Like, I think it's so. I don't know. I think it's important. A lot of people, I know some people might not like the kind of idea of DJs in podcasts and.
I get it completely, man. I'm stepping carefully asking people, because I know it's an invasion of what may seem like the typical cool underground DJ, but I think my 50p is that times have changed, and
that's what.
You can leave. You can avoid them if you want, but I think it's inevitable that this is going to become more of a normal thing, isn't it?
That's what I think, man. I think the times have definitely changed, and I think for me, it's just a humbling feeling to hear people's stories, instead of it just being like, oh, you're just a DJ, it's just about the music. I'm like, yeah, but there's a person behind that music, and like, it's so interesting to hear what that person's about. So keep doing it, man. I really enjoyed it. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, man. Well, absolute pleasure. This will be going live later today, man. So I'll pop you a message on Instagram, and thanks again for your time, bro.
Nice. Big love, mate. Thanks.
Safe, mate. I'll catch you soon, bro.
Peace. See you later.